I'm Evelyn, and I thought I knew every corner of my marriage, every quiet morning, every shared silence with my husband, Nathan. But on my birthday, he handed me a mysterious black envelope, a cryptic note inside, promising a night where anything is allowed. My heart raced as I drove to an abandoned theater on the edge of town, the air thick with secrets and decay. What awaited me there wasn't just a surprise. It was a stage set for something unthinkable, something that could unravel everything I thought I knew about us. What did Nathan plan in the shadows of that forgotten place, and why was he watching from the darkness? There's a certain stillness in the air today, a kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I'm Evelyn, 33. And I've spent most of my life sketching out designs, both on paper as a freelance graphic designer and in the quieter corners of my mind. My husband, Nathan, 35, is the kind of man who can sell an idea before you even realize you wanted it. He's a creative director at a local advertising firm, always weaving stories into campaigns, and I've often wondered if he's weaving something into our life too. Something I can't quite see yet. We've been married for 7 years, living in a suburban pocket just beyond the city's restless hum. Our home is a sanctuary of routine, of coffee in the morning and shared silences at night. But beneath it all, there's a current. A restless, untamed thing neither of us has dared to name. This morning, as the first light crept through our bedroom window, Nathan turned to me with a look I couldn't quite place. It was my birthday, and instead of the usual thoughtful gift or playful card, he handed me a sleek black envelope. My fingers brushed against its smooth surface, and I felt a strange thrill, like touching something forbidden. Inside was a handwritten note, his familiar scrawl sharp against the cream paper. It read, "A day when anything is allowed. 8 p.m., be there." Below it, an address, an old theater on the outskirts of the city, a place I haven't thought of in years. I remember it from childhood, a crumbling relic with peeling paint and broken marquee letters, a ghost of performances past. My breath caught as I read the words again. Anything is allowed. What could that mean? My mind spun, grasping at possibilities, each more daring than the last. I looked up at Nathan, searching his face for a hint, a clue, anything. But he just smiled. That slow, enigmatic curve of his lips that always makes my heart skip. Then he leaned in, kissed my forehead with a tenderness that felt almost like a promise, and left for work without another word. I stood there, envelope in hand, feeling the weight of the day shift beneath me. The house was quiet after he left, too quiet, and I found myself pacing between my home office and the kitchen, unable to focus on the design project waiting on my laptop. My thoughts kept circling back to that note. Was it a surprise party? Some kind of private event just for us? Or something else entirely? Something that might finally give voice to that wild undercurrent we've both felt but never spoken of? I spent hours dissecting every word, every loop of his handwriting, as if I could uncover the secret hidden in the ink. By midday, I was a bundle of nerves and curiosity, my imagination running wild with scenarios that made my cheeks flush. I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight would be different, that it might peel back layers of our marriage I hadn't even known were there. As the clock ticked closer to 8 p.m., I found myself gripping the steering wheel tighter, my palms damp with anticipation. The city lights faded behind me as I drove toward the outskirts, the road narrowing into a ribbon of asphalt flanked by overgrown weeds. Finally, the old majestic theater came into view, a hulking shadow against the twilight sky. I pulled into the gravel parking lot, the crunch of stones under my tires sounding louder than it should in the stillness. The building loomed ahead, its once grand facade now a skeleton of its past. Peeling paint flaking off like dead skin, windows boarded up with splintered wood, and the marquee stripped bare. Not a single letter left to hint at its former glory. I stepped out of the car, the air hitting me with a stale whiff of dust and decay, and clutched the black envelope Nathan had given me this morning. It felt like a lifeline, a tether to whatever this night was supposed to be. The silence around the theater was suffocating, broken only by the distant hum of traffic somewhere far off, a reminder of a world that felt miles away. My boots crunched on the gravel as I approached the front doors, my heart thudding in my chest. I half expected them to be locked, rusted shut by years of neglect, but when I pushed, they creaked open with a groan that echoed into the darkness beyond. Stepping inside, the musty scent of age enveloped me. The lobby was a tomb of faded grandeur. Red carpet, once plush, now threadbare and coated in dust, stretched across the floor. Cobwebs draped over an ancient ticket booth, its glass smudged and cracked as if no one had touched it in decades. My eyes adjusted to the dimness, and I noticed a faint glow spilling from the auditorium doors at the far end. It pulled at me, a silent summons I couldn't ignore. My heels echoed on the worn floor as I moved forward, each step amplifying the nervous hitch in my breath. I pushed open the heavy auditorium doors, the hinges protesting with a low wail, and stepped into a cavernous space. The theater was vast, rows of tattered velvet seats stretching into an endless darkness, their fabric torn and faded, as if they'd borne witness to countless forgotten stories. Ahead, the stage dominated the room, its heavy curtain drawn shut, but dim spotlights along the edges cast long, jagged shadows that seemed to writhe in the corners of my vision. I froze, my gaze catching on something. Movement on the stage. Figures, barely visible in the low light, stood there, unmoving. My pulse quickened as I counted them. 11 men, all clad in dark suits, their faces obscured by the gloom. They didn't speak, didn't shift, just stood like statues, waiting for something or someone. My breath caught in my throat, a mix of dread and fascination rooting me to the spot. Should I call out? Turn back and run to the safety of my car? My mind raced with questions, each one more unsettling than the last. But before I could decide, the heavy curtain on the stage began to rise with a slow, grinding rasp. The sound scraped against the silence, pulling my attention forward as the fabric parted to reveal the full scene. My eyes darted to the rows of seats before me, expecting to see an audience waiting in the shadows. But the theater was a void. Empty, desolate, save for one solitary figure. There, in the very last row, barely visible in the dim flicker of the house lights, sat a man I'd recognize anywhere. My heart stopped. It was Nathan, my Nathan, watching me with an unreadable expression, his face a mask of stillness in the gloom. A jolt shot through me, sharp and electric, as if the ground beneath my feet had shifted. What was he doing here? Why was he just sitting there? I turned to the man closest to me on stage, the one who had silently taken my hand as I'd stepped into the spotlight moments before. His grip was firm, grounding, but now it felt like a question I didn't know how to answer. I searched his eyes for some kind of explanation, some hint of what this all meant, but he only gave a subtle nod, a gesture so slight it might have been imagined. It felt like a cue, like this was all part of some carefully written play I hadn't been given the script for. The other 10 men, still in their dark suits, moved closer, their steps deliberate, forming a loose circle around me. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken intent, and my pulse hammered in my ears as the pieces started to fall into place. Nathan's note from this morning, those words scrawled in his sharp handwriting, "Anything is allowed," echoed in my mind. It wasn't just a phrase, it was permission, an invitation to step over a line we'd never even whispered about crossing. My chest tightened as a storm of emotions tore through me. Guilt clawed at my insides, sharp and relentless. How could I even consider this with Nathan right there, watching? Confusion swirled, muddying my thoughts. Was this what he wanted? Had he planned this? And beneath it all, a darker, more dangerous feeling stirred. A thrilling curiosity I couldn't ignore. A pull toward the unknown that made my skin prickle with heat. I glanced back at Nathan, half expecting to see anger or pain etched across his face, some sign that I should stop this before it began. But there was nothing. His expression remained neutral, almost encouraging, as if he were daring me to take the next step. My breath hitched, caught between fear and fascination, as I stood frozen under the weight of his gaze. Then, the man beside me leaned in, his breath warm against my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. His voice was low, a whisper meant only for me. "It's your stage, Evelyn. Perform." The words ignited something within me, a spark that flared into a flame I couldn't extinguish. The harsh spotlights above us burned down, casting stark shadows across the worn wooden stage, and I felt exposed, raw, as if every layer of who I thought I was had been stripped away. What followed was a dance of sorts, a choreography of forbidden boundaries, each moment unfolding with a precision that felt both surreal and inevitable. The 11 men moved with a quiet respect, their actions deliberate, never crossing into force, but guiding me through a performance I hadn't rehearsed for. Their touches were like brushstrokes on a canvas, painting a picture I couldn't look away from. Each contact light yet laden with intent, a silent conversation of desire and restraint. The creak of the stage beneath us echoed with every step, every shift of weight, grounding me in the reality of what was happening. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and dust, mingling with the heat of bodies so close, and the spotlight seemed to sear into my skin, illuminating every choice I made. I lost myself in the rhythm of it all, each interaction peeling away the constraints I'd worn for so long as Evelyn, the dutiful wife, the careful designer. In those moments, I became someone else, someone I'm not sure I recognize, alone now under the harsh glare of the spotlight, my breath still uneven, my skin still warm from the intensity of what just unfolded on this creaky, ancient stage. My dress hangs slightly askew, the fabric rumpled from the whirlwind of moments that felt like a dream I couldn't wake from. The 11 men who stood with me, who guided me through that unspoken performance, have vanished into the wings, their footsteps fading into a silence so heavy it presses down on me like a physical weight. The theater is a void again, the rows of tattered seats stretching into darkness, empty except for one figure in the distance. Nathan. My Nathan. I can feel his presence even from here, a tether pulling at me, though I can't see his face clearly in the dim light. My mind is a storm, thoughts crashing into each other with no reprieve. Does he hate me now? Did I shatter something between us that can't be mended? Was this some kind of test, a measure of my loyalty or my limits, and did I fail it miserably? My heart pounds so hard I'm sure it echoes through the cavernous space, each beat a question I'm too afraid to ask aloud. I wrap my arms around myself, trying to steady the trembling that's taken hold, but it's no use. I'm raw, exposed, standing here in the aftermath of something I can't fully grasp, waiting for judgment. Then I hear it, slow, deliberate footsteps resonating from the aisle. I squint into the shadows, and there he is, Nathan, walking toward the stage. Each step is measured, purposeful, like he's walking through a scene he's already written in his mind. The dim house lights catch the edges of his silhouette, but his face remains unreadable, a mask of shadow and mystery. My stomach twists, a knot of dread and anticipation tightening as he nears. I brace myself, expecting anger, disgust, maybe even cold indifference, anything but what I hope for. I don't dare move, rooted to the spot as if the stage itself has claimed me. He climbs the steps to the stage, the wood groaning softly under his weight, and stops just inches from me. I can feel the heat of him, the familiar pull that's always been there between us, but I can't meet his eyes at first. I'm too afraid of what I'll see. Then, slowly, I lift my gaze, and his eyes are searching mine, deep and intense, like he's looking for something he's always known was there. My breath catches, waiting for the storm to break, for words that will cut or condemn. But instead, without a single sound, he steps closer and pulls me into his arms. His embrace is strong, warm, enveloping me in a way that feels like coming home after being lost for too long. I'm stunned, my body still trembling as I lean into him, my cheek pressed against his chest. I can smell the familiar scent of his cologne, a grounding note of cedar and something darker, and it steadies me even as my mind reels. He buries his face in my hair, his breath warm against my scalp, and then I hear his voice, low and almost reverent, a whisper meant just for me. "You did it perfectly." The words sink into me, a wave of relief crashing over the jagged edges of my fear, but they also stir a new kind of confusion. Perfectly? What does that even mean? I pull back just enough to look at him, searching his face for answers, for some hint of what's behind those words. But he only gives me a small, knowing smile, the kind that hints at layers I haven't uncovered yet, secrets he's still holding close. It's not a smile of judgment or mockery. It's something deeper, something that makes my pulse quicken for reasons I can't name. Before I can speak, before I can ask the questions burning in my throat, he takes my hand, his grip firm but gentle, and leads me off the stage. We descend the steps together, the echo of our footsteps the only sound in the vast, empty theater. The spotlights dim behind us, casting long shadows as we move. As Nathan and I leave the echoing emptiness of the old majestic theater behind, the cool night air hits my skin like a splash of reality, pulling me back from the surreal haze of what just transpired. We walk to the car in silence, my hand still in his, the warmth of his grip anchoring me as my mind churns with 1,000 unspoken thoughts. The gravel crunches under our feet, a stark contrast to the weightless feeling still lingering in my chest. I slide into the passenger seat, the familiar leather creaking softly as I settle in, and Nathan starts the engine. The hum of the car is the only sound as we pull out of the desolate parking lot. The theater shrinking in the rearview mirror like a fading dream, I'm not sure I'm ready to wake from. The city streets are quiet at this hour, the glow of streetlights casting fleeting patterns across the dashboard as we drive. I stare out the window, watching the world blur by, my reflection in the glass a ghostly echo of the woman I was just hours ago. My heart feels raw, split open by the intensity of the night, and I'm not sure where to begin processing it all. The performance on that stage, the unspoken dance of boundaries pushed and explored, still hums in my veins like a current I can't shut off. I can still feel the heat of those moments, the way I surrendered to something wild and untamed under Nathan's watchful gaze. It was as if I'd stepped into a hidden part of myself, a version of Evelyn I didn't know existed until tonight. Nathan's voice breaks the silence, low and steady, pulling me from the spiral of my thoughts. "I planned this night for you, Ev," he says, his eyes fixed on the road ahead, though I can feel the weight of his words directed straight at me. Not to trick you or push you into anything you didn't want. It was a gift. A chance to explore what we've both felt, but never said out loud. All these years, I've seen that spark in you, that hunger for something more, something beyond the lines we've drawn around us. I needed to see if you'd feel it too. His confession hits me like a wave, crashing over the uncertainty that's been gnawing at me since we left the stage. Shock ripples through me first. How long had he been thinking about this? How had he known this part of me even before I did? But beneath the surprise, there's a warmth blooming, a gratitude so deep it almost aches. He saw me, truly saw me, in a way I hadn't even dared to see myself. Watching me up there, uninhibited, powerful, he says it was everything he'd hoped for. His voice carries a quiet awe, like he's still replaying the scene in his mind. And I feel my cheeks flush at the memory of how I let go, how I became something more under those searing spotlights. I turn to look at him, the dim light catching the sharp line of his jaw, the steady focus in his expression. My emotions are a tangled mess, but I need to say it, need to let the truth out before it chokes me. I loved it, Nathan, I admit, my voice trembling at the edges, betraying the vulnerability I feel in this moment. Every second of it. I don't regret a single thing that happened tonight. I felt alive in a way I haven't in so long. The words spill out, raw and unfiltered, and I brace myself, half expecting him to pull away, to question me. But he doesn't. He just nods, a small, understanding gesture, and reaches over to rest his hand on mine. The warmth of his touch steadies me, a silent reassurance that we're in this together. Whatever this is. We pull into our driveway, the house looming ahead, dark and familiar, yet somehow different now, as if the walls themselves know what we've crossed into tonight. The engine cuts off, and for a moment, we just sit there, the weight of the night settling around us like a heavy fog. Then Nathan turns to me, his eyes searching mine in the faint glow from the porch light spilling through the windshield. His gaze holds mine, intense and unguarded, and for the first time since we left the theater, I feel the tension between us shift into something softer, something that promises we're not done exploring. Days have passed since that night at the Old Majestic, but I find myself caught in a loop, replaying every moment over and over in my mind. I can still feel the heat of the spotlight on my skin, the weight of unspoken choices, the way the stage creaked beneath me as I stepped into a version of myself I hadn't known was waiting. It's like a song stuck in my head, a melody of daring and discovery that I can't shake, and honestly, I don't want to. Nathan and I, we're closer now than we've ever been. There's a rawness to our conversations, a willingness to bear everything, to speak the truths we've kept buried for years. We sit across from each other at the kitchen table late at night, cups of coffee growing cold as we talk about desires, boundaries, and the unspoken currents that have always flowed between us. His voice is steady, but there's a fire in his eyes when he looks at me, a shared memory of that night igniting something new. And when we touch, oh, it's electric, a spark that travels through every nerve, charged with a newfound intimacy that makes even the simplest brush of his hand against mine feel like a promise. It's as if we've rewritten the script of our marriage, turning the pages to a chapter neither of us expected, but both of us craved. I've slipped back into my routine, or at least I've tried to. My days are filled with design projects, the glow of my laptop screen a familiar comfort as I sketch out logos and layouts for clients. I cook dinner in our quiet kitchen, the sizzle of onions in the pan, a grounding rhythm, the scent of garlic filling the air as I stir. But beneath the normalcy, there's a secret energy humming through me, a constant anticipation that I can't ignore. It's like I'm always waiting for the next scene to unfold, for the curtain to rise on whatever comes next. My heart races at the thought of it, a quiet thrill that colors even the most mundane moments with a sense of possibility. I catch myself staring out the window sometimes, lost in thought, wondering what Nathan and I will create together in this strange, beautiful story we've started. I confess, I'm waiting for the second act. That night at the theater, It was just the opening, a prelude to something bigger, something I can feel building in the spaces between us. I'm eager to see what's next, to step onto whatever stage awaits with Nathan by my side. We've always been a team, but now it feels different, like we're co-directors of a play that's still being written, each of us holding a pen, ready to shape the narrative. I think about the way he looked at me that night, the quiet awe in his voice when he told me I'd done it perfectly, and I wonder what other boundaries we might explore, what other hidden parts of ourselves we might uncover together. This morning, as I shuffled into the kitchen still half asleep, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the blinds, I stopped short at the sight of something on the counter. There it was, another envelope, identical to the one Nathan gave me on my birthday. Sleek, black, and heavy with promise, it sat there like a silent challenge, daring me to pick it up. My breath caught as I reached for it, my fingers trembling just slightly with the weight of anticipation. I turned it over, and there, in his sharp, familiar handwriting, was a single word. Soon. My heart raced, a wild thrum in my chest as I held it, the smooth surface cool against my skin. I didn't open it. Not yet. I didn't need to. That one word was enough to set my mind spinning, to flood me with a rush of excitement and curiosity about what's coming. Whatever it is, I know one thing for certain. Nathan and I will face it together, partners in every sense, ready to direct the next. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.